My mom looked at me and said they had to make smart decisions about which daughter had a real future. Then she told me where my settlement money actually went. When I was 7, a drunk driver ran a red light and hit my dad's car while I was in the backseat. My dad walked away with a bruised rib, but I spent 4 months in the hospital and left with a permanent limp that makes every step feel like a small punishment. Growing up, my parents made it clear that my sister Amy was the priority because she was going places, and I was just trying to keep up. She got dance lessons and summer camps while I got leftovers and hand-me-downs. Whenever I complained, my mom would say Amy needed more support to reach her potential. I moved out at 19 and worked my way through community college while Amy lived at home rent-free until she was 26. Now she owns a condo downtown while I rent a third-floor walk-up that takes me 5 agonizing minutes to climb every day because it was all I could afford. My husband Theo and I have been saving for years to move somewhere accessible, but we are nowhere close. Last weekend, my parents visited for the first time since we got married, and the moment my mom walked through the door, she wrinkled her nose like she smelled something rotten. She watched me lower myself onto the couch because my leg was burning from the stairs, and then she asked, "Why on earth would you two choose a third-floor apartment when you know how hard it is for her to get around?" I just stared at her for a second and said, "You think we chose this place? This was the only apartment we could afford, Mom." She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh please, you've always been so dramatic about money. Amy manages just fine on her own. Maybe you two just need to budget better." Theo had been quiet until that point, but I could see him tensing up in the doorway, and he said, "Budget better? She makes barely above minimum wage and she's still paying off medical debt from surgeries after the accident. How exactly do you budget your way out of that?" My dad stood up and pointed his finger at Theo like he was scolding a child. "You need to watch your tone, son. We didn't come here to be interrogated." Theo didn't back down. "Then why did you come?" "Because you've never once offered to help us, but you helped Amy buy her condo." My mom let out this sharp little laugh and said, "That's completely different. We had to make smart decisions about where to invest our resources, and Amy actually had a future ahead of her." The room went dead quiet, and I said, "What is that supposed to mean?" My dad put his hand on my mom's arm like he was trying to stop her, but she pulled away from him. My mom crossed her arms and said, "It means you need to grow up and accept reality." I shook my head and said, "What reality? What are you even talking about?" She looked at me like I was stupid and said, "The settlement money, obviously." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. What settlement money? Nobody ever told me about any settlement. My dad's face went pale and he said, "Linda, stop talking right now." But my mom was on a roll and she said, "Oh, come on. Of course there was a settlement. The drunk driver had insurance. We got almost $500,000 when you were 8. Theo stepped forward and said, "$500,000? Where did all of that go if it was supposed to be for her?" My mom shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world and said, "Amy's private school tuition, her college fund, her first car, eventually her condo down payment. We had to make practical choices about which daughter had the best chance of actually succeeding." I couldn't even speak, and she looked right at me and said, "Honey, we did what any good parents would do. Amy had real opportunities ahead of her, and you were always going to struggle no matter how much money we threw at you. We couldn't change that. We just had to be realistic." Theo walked straight to the front door and opened it wide. His voice was colder than I had ever heard it when he said, "Get out of our apartment, now, and don't ever contact us again." My dad tried to stammer something about family, but Theo just stood there holding the door open until they finally walked out, and my mom turned back one last time and said, "You're making a huge mistake." Theo closed the door in her face. We stood there in silence until Theo wrapped his arms around me. $500,000 that was supposed to be mine, spent on the daughter they believed in, while I limped up 3 flights of stairs every day, wondering why I could never get ahead. Now I know exactly why.